So I'm Mary Reeves with Beginnings. Lisa.
Hi.
Good to see you.
I made it.
Awesome. So I'm going to try to condense this into 20 minutes, get me talking about hearing loss, and I can keep
You've
talking.
got tons of time now, by the way.
Oh, you might not want to tell me that.
So nobody's going to hurt you if you end early though.
Okay. Well, so Beginnings, who are we? What do we do? We are a statewide nonprofit that was born out of myself, my co-founder. I was a counselor with deaf and hard of hearing kids for 10 years, did community mental health. My co-founder was a teacher of the deaf, and we collaboratively served a lot of families who seemed to have a lot of needs that they didn't know how to be met, where to get them met, what to do. They didn't have a good understanding of their child's audiogram. They didn't have a good understanding of why they needed to wear their hearing aids, how to wear them, what to do if you need new batteries, the gamut of questions. So we took an evidence-based model from North Carolina, Beginnings. It's been around for 27 years, started by parents of kids with hearing loss, and we brought it to South Carolina. We've been around, I think we're in our 6th year. We've had contact with 250-something families since our inception, and I think we're in every county but one. I was trying to pull that up the other day. So we're all around. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we do, but I want to kind of set the stage about hearing loss a little bit and kind of give you an idea of why we do what we do and why it's important. Raise your hand if you can see this. Don't tell me what it says, but raise your hand. There's going to be glasses. Like not everybody needed some. You can see. Okay, so how about this? Raise your hand if you can read that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give you a cochlear implant. Raise your hand if you can read that word. Don't shout it out, but raise your hand if you can read it. So this is a visual representation of a cochlear implant. I gave you a door. The ear is a door. A cochlear implant gives a kid a new door, but it doesn't fix a broken listening system. It doesn't, I liken this to our ears. If anyone, if everyone in the room has typical hearing, it's a door. We open the door, the sound goes in straight to the brain. There it is, we're here. When you have a broken listening system and you get a cochlear implant, we give them a new door. The door opens to an escalator, and it's kind of rickety, and they're going up, and then you get to this cavern with this rickety bridge. It might have a couple planks missing, and it's going across the Grand Canyon, and then it gets to the brain. That's a lot of sound that has to happen. Gives kids access. They have a new door, but it doesn't make it clear. So for those who aren't sure what this is, oh, I touched it without meaning to. There you go, fire truck. Normally I would say, let me give you some context clues. It's an emergency vehicle. It makes sense. So we clarify, we give kids information. We don't just fix their hearing loss with a cochlear implant or a hearing aid. We have to give them additional information. We talk a lot about the 30 million word gap. Y'all heard of the 30 million word gap? It's this idea that kids need to have heard 30 million words before they start a reading program at the age of 5. Most kids, 90% of what they know before they start kindergarten, they learn incidentally through the air, like magic. They're in language, they absorb the language, it happens naturally. For kids with hearing loss, broken listening system, it doesn't. We have to bring them language. We recognize the importance of doing that because our parents don't really know how to make that happen. How do I bring a kid language? So I've got the hearing aids on. That only works if they don't get the incidental language unless they are 3 feet from them. There's this listening bubble, we call it. So if information doesn't happen in this 3-foot range, they're not going to get these words. They'll have a hard time getting these words if they are 3 feet from them. They have to hear them on average 25 times before they hear and understand the meaning of a word. Incidence and prevalence. Again, I'm kind of flying through some stuff. I'm going to give you guys just some basic kind of hearing loss information for those who aren't already aware. 2 out of 1,000 babies are born with permanent hearing loss. Low incidence. It's not a lot. We do a really fantastic job of screening babies for hearing loss in our state. We have a pretty high loss to follow-up. We don't know what happens to them after they're screened. We have about, last I looked, it was like 47%. So we're screening them, but we don't know where they go. The number that I like to highlight is 1 in 100 school-age kids have a permanent hearing loss. That should be 12,000 children in South Carolina. There are not 12,000 children identified, I can promise you that. We look at IEP numbers, we look at kids on 504s, we look at sort of other anecdotal information. There are a lot that aren't out there. So where are they? What are they? We have Read to Succeed now. Do we have kids who are going to be falling behind because they're not poor readers because they don't have those 30 million words to start that reading program? They're out there. 1 in 10 total population of people who have hearing loss. I have hearing loss. Didn't really know that until I was in my 30s. It's probably impacted me a really long time. There are a lot of us out there. Oh, it's blinking, sorry. We like to say hearing loss is not a disability in itself. It's not inherently a disability. It's the lack of language that causes hearing loss to be a disability. One of the things that we provide to our parents, and I'm kind of sticking around a little bit, is we want to make sure that they understand, again, the impact of hearing loss, that they need that technology, they need early intervention. If they get all that, if their kids have language, they're going to be just great. They're going to do everything that they thought they could do, they're just going to do it a little bit differently. They have a different journey. They're going to be learning information a little bit different. We are an unbiased organization, meaning that we serve all families with all sorts of communication modalities. We have kids that have cochlear implants, hearing aids. We have deaf parents who have deaf children who sign and only want to sign, and that's okay with us. The only thing we say our parents can't do is do nothing. We want kids to have language. We want them to be excellent readers. We want them to graduate from high school. We want them to go to college or not, do whatever they want to do. But we recognize that there's also a culture there, and hearing loss is such a unique disability that it has borne its own culture, language. Every kid that we serve that has hearing loss is completely unique. They all have varied needs, whether it's their hearing loss needs are unique, they're cochlear implant or hearing aid users or signers, but also when were they diagnosed? How were they diagnosed? What was that process? How was their early intervention? Research tells us that kids with hearing loss who leave early intervention not on par with their same age peers with language have a 5 to 15% chance of ever catching up. That's the thing that kind of keeps us going. We know that if we get them early, if we get them in, and we all know that about early intervention anyway. We know we have this critical window, but even more so for language, because if we don't get them soon, we know they're not going to catch up. So when were they identified? How? What do their parents know? You know, parents are one of the biggest outcomes, or biggest indicators of success for our kids. We want really empowered, educated, knowledgeable parents. Syndrome related, all these things matter. The effects of hearing loss, a lot of these we probably know. I've talked about them a little bit. Delays in speech and language, obviously, learning problems. The counselor in me, again, I did community mental health for 10 years, and our caseload was, we had birth, I think my oldest client was in 80s. Looking at the caseload that we had in mental health, we had about 350 patients. And our state director said at one point that he estimated that about half of them did not have a serious and persistent mental illness. Schizophrenia, bipolar, clinical depression. What they had was delayed language and a lack of opportunities to be engaged with people in their communities because they didn't have language. And so the social emotional part sticks out to me the most. That's the thing that I spend a lot of time talking with our parents about is how to make sure that you can communicate with your child, that they know what's happening, that they understand. Language is really important for long-term success, but emotionally, socially, getting all that information so they can be successful in all the ways. Into third grade, I mentioned that. For kids with hearing loss, on average, 20% of them have third grade reading skills. So our kids who are identified with hearing loss have IEPs, are obviously not impacted by this new Read to Succeed. What about all the other kids who aren't identified? They're struggling readers. Lasting impacts, higher rates of abuse and neglect and disabilities. We are, one of the programs that we have, I'll talk a little bit more about our hearing screening program. We've recently started a focus on finding kids in foster care. We can't do that through the foster care side yet. We're doing that through our grant agreement with Department of Social Services, Early Care and Education, the child care side, if you will. And we are targeting child care centers that have lots of kids in foster care. Lots, we're starting with. If they have 5 or more, we'll come to you. Because we know the impact that that's having on those, and they're not being identified. Typically they're not screened when they enter the foster care system. Okay, so a little bit about hearing loss. Questions about that before I roll on through? That was fast. A lot of it, but
How would we recommend a child care facility that has more than one child in foster care?
call me. I'll give you my card. Yeah. So, and I will be right over. Well, not right over, but yeah. So there are 3 of us that do this statewide stuff. So what do we do? Obviously we talk a lot about hearing loss. It's the only thing we do. We don't, we're knowledgeable about other disabilities, but we do hearing loss. That's our focus. We're so thankful for all the other programs out there that work with other kids with other types of hearing loss, other types of disabilities, and we call on them. We ask for, we send loads of families to Family Connection help. But like I said, our focus is parent education. That's what we do. We come and speak to you guys. We do lots of consultation for providers. But we want our parents to understand that hearing loss does not have to be a disability. The world kind of views it as a disability. It's an automatically qualifying disability for education, but it doesn't have to be. It can cause a disability if they don't have language. So we have 5 major programs. Beginnings in North Carolina, for what it's worth, does this one, parent counseling. That's all they do. And they get support from the North Carolina legislators to do that. They serve 700-ish families a year. We did that for a couple of years, and we realized we needed to do more. We're not where North Carolina is. They've been around for 30 years. We need to make sure that everybody is aware of the impact of hearing loss, and that lots of other organizations know that we're available to do other things. So, advocacy and policy, kind of just spreading word. We're working on that. Technical assistance and training. As part of our program of services for child care providers, we are a DSS partner agency, like I mentioned. Hearing screenings to child care centers, and at this point, we're focusing on ABC quality centers and then those with kids in foster care. To date, we've screened, it's over 3,200 kids, and we've been screening children since the fall of 2015. That's a lot of children. We have sort of anecdotal information on how many have been identified, and some of that is getting the information back from the parents. So did you go to the audiologist? What happened? How did it turn out? What did they do? But we are, as part of that, hearing screenings, doing training for child care providers. I was in a center yesterday and screened a classroom of 2-year-olds, and all but one of the 2-year-olds didn't pass the hearing screening. And she goes, do they all have hearing loss? And I said, no, probably not. They all have colds. It's allergy season. They've got a lot of fluid in their ears. So what can you do different in your classroom? When everybody has a runny nose, turn the music off at story time. Ways that they can bring their wonderful lessons and make sure all kids have access to that. Doesn't mean they have hearing loss. Maybe one does in the class, but probably just colds and flu. Colds and allergies. We also do awareness and education. Like this, we will come and talk to anybody, anywhere about hearing loss. We can't do it alone. We know we need a team. There are a lot of families, 12,000 kids, who have some aspect of a permanent hearing loss and need help, need support, need to know what that means and what to do about it. We have the beginnings model, what we believe families need. They need identification and connection. We need kids who aren't just out there wondering if they have a hearing loss. They're not like me going, why is that ear not, I don't understand why the ear doesn't work. It actually just doesn't work, it's not you. They need to be identified, they need to be connected. They need to be connected with knowledgeable professionals, so pediatric audiologists. We refer a lot of folks when we're in the Greenville area to Clarity. They need to have access to people who can help them figure out what to do. But they also need connection with other parents. We do that parent education, the parent counseling. And it's not the same kind of counseling that I used to do. It's more just the support and bringing information to them. But they need to be able to talk to other parents. What do I do? What did you do? Our parents need information. They need to understand, again, how to bring language to their child. We have a lot of parents who say, okay, so my provider told me to talk all day. I don't know what to talk about. And so we talk them through, what do you do? narrate your day. And a mom go, I don't know what that means. How do I narrate my day? So bringing that, we have the advantage of coming into their home, sitting down on the floor and going, okay, narrate your day. You're exhausted. You worked a 12-hour shift. You have 3 other kids. How do you narrate your day? What do you do? And is it okay to take a day off? Is it okay? What do you do? And then our kids. We want kids who are getting all the services they need, taking advantage of all the services that are being offered. And that means connecting with all the other resources that are out there. Whoop. How many did I get? Sorry, y'all. Sometimes I think they're technology savvy, and other times I wonder. So how do you find us? Our website, scbegin.org, has loads of resources and information. You can see some of these, our stories, resources, how to make a referral. And we've got it broken down. So if you're a parent, what do you need? If you're a professional for the community, we do an event called Back to School Bash, and we just confirmed the date this morning, August 4th. And we invite vendors and folks from all over the state to come, and we invite all of our families. I think last year we had like 35 families, which was not huge. We would love for them all to come, but we do recognize that they're all over the state, and coming to Columbia is a drive. But we have all sorts of vendors, cochlear implant companies and video relay companies. So how does a parent use a video phone if they have a child who's an ASL communicator? Video? What is a video phone? Like FaceTime? There are providers who set that up. All sorts of folks. So we really try to bring as much to our families as we possibly can. Resources for learning language. We didn't think we were going to, just like we didn't think we were going to provide hearing screenings, and we do. ASL classes. We have families all the time ask us for our kids who are ASL users, how do I learn ASL? So we've connected with some instructors at various parks around the state who are teaching some ASL classes for us, and we just sort of coordinate those and connect them. But we also have other resources for people who want to learn some websites and things like that. So let's say you work with a child, a family, a child who has hearing loss, or a deaf parent. I didn't say that. We serve, if there's a deaf parent who has a hearing child, and the deaf parent isn't really sure how to navigate the system, what to do, can I request an interpreter at a school appointment, what do I do? You can find us on our website, make a referral, it's really easy. There's, parents, we have lots of parents who find us on the website and send a referral. In our brochures and everything's in English and in Spanish. And releases of information, all that's available on our website. And we do serve parents parents of children who are birthed at 21. All of our services are free. We are 100% donation funded for that program. And we have our referral process, of course. And then once they've gone through that and an intake call, getting some information, make sure we have some documents, which at least an audiogram. If we don't have a parent who makes a referral, if it's from a professional and you have an audiogram or some sort of something that shows what their hearing loss is, sorry, I'm signing to you. Sometimes my brain works better that way. Attach that to it, send a referral to us, and then we make contact with the family and we do a home visit. Like I said, we come in, we sit down on the floor. Where are you? What do you need? How can we help? What services do you have? Great, you've got really good services. Continue with those. Okay, you don't have these couple things. Let's help you figure out how to get connected with those. And then we're not direct service providers. I think I said that. We call ourselves the on-call coaches for our families. So sometimes in the beginning we provide a lot of really intense information. Maybe we make a couple of home visits. Our first home visit is typically about 2 hours. After that, I'm kind of on call. I was on the phone with a mom today who's kind of stressing out. Her daughter's in high school. She's just been kind of officially diagnosed, although symptoms have been present since she was 3. And now she's like, what do I do? She's freaking out. She's failing English, all these things. What do I do? So I might walk her through this process, and then she'll be good, and we might hear from her again at IEP time. So we're here really for whatever their needs are, whenever they pop up. And this is how you contact us. We are located in Columbia. Our office is there, but like I said, we travel everywhere. We're in all counties but one. So you can find us via email or on our website. And I have some materials about the trainings in TA, and I can give you information. I didn't catch your name.
Leslie.
Leslie, okay. I can give you some information for hearing screening stuff if you want to pass on about that. And then brochures if y'all would like to have some of those. So that's us. Questions? Yes?
Can you talk about, I just received an email from you guys about summer camps. Can you talk about your summer camps that's offering this summer?
Yes, yeah. So we don't actually offer any summer camps. What we try to do is that information hub is collect anything that impacts kids with hearing loss, families with hearing loss, and, you know, be the one-stop shop. We have a lot of families who come to us. So we have on our website, we've compiled a list of, I think, the 5 camps that are geared towards kids with hearing loss, and there are, of course, others that kids can go to. And, you know, if there are camps, like sometimes we'll have a family who comes to us and say, my kid really wants to go to comic book camp at the Columbia Art Museum. What do I do? Well, I'm happy to, we'll go out and do some TA for them. We'll help them make sure they understand how to accommodate your child with hearing loss in the camp. But that's what that is. We just compiled that. We do that every year, try to put together that list, and then send it out to everybody.
Do you guys ever do signing trainings?
Say again,
Sign language trainings?
No, we don't. Like I said, we do our sign language classes, and I think we just, yesterday was probably the last day of a class that was happening in Pickens.
Okay.
So
Do you know of other places that do that around here, or?
Clemson has a program. I don't know, their program has kind of shifted a little bit with their ASL. Looks like it was an interpreter training program, and I think it's morphed. And I believe they have some, even if you're not enrolled in Clemson, some continuing ed stuff. Midlands Tech in Columbia. And then a lot of times there are local churches who will do sort of a basic introductory ASL class. Ours are very basic and introduction. We want our parents to be able to, they're taught by a deaf person. We want our parents to be able to meet a deaf person. And learn sign language, but it's basic. Like, we want them basic communication skills, and then try to point them in directions if they want to go further, they can.
You know, if there's interest of folks that want to learn something like that, you know, email me, and I could always reach out to some of the sign language interpreters that are local, and maybe we could try to see if they would do kind of like, it's like conversational Spanish. I like what you're, you know, it's like, you know, conversational, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I get requests downstairs, you know, I mean, for somebody looking for sign language classes, you hear nothing.
I didn't mean to interrupt with it.
No, that's great. Thank you. I like this Greenville can, this whole idea of to do these all over the state.
Well, I was going to just sort of jump in, not just necessarily related to your program, but I put an article back here in the upstate. There's a group called the Irresistibles. It's a play group. I just corresponded with the mom when I let her know you were speaking. She probably has told it, John, but anyway, they're meeting again in May at the Greenville Zoo. I follow their Facebook page. But for anybody who's looking for a way to connect this is for children, young children particularly, who have hearing impairment, to connect them with other families with similar issues. I just left the article back here.
Excellent, thank you. I'm gonna take that with me. We, there's another group called Hands and Voices, and Hands and Voices is a national group. It's all focused on parent support for kids with hearing loss. And we've been in collaboration with our local Hands and Voices and reaching out to all the other groups, because there are a lot of groups. There's the Irresistibles, there's one in Florence called Hero. Some of those are parent support groups, some of them are play groups, some of them are both. Hands and Voices does a local one in Columbia that's both. They do it at the Richland Library, the Delta Zeta. Folks from the Delta Zeta sorority come and entertain the kids while the parents get to chat. They do story time with an ASL interpreter. And that's really important for us too. A lot of our kids are mainstreamed, and I use this slide I'm going to show you. Many kids, one kid. They're the only kid with hearing loss in their school or in their district. And when they see another kid with a hearing aid, they're like, oh my gosh, you're like me. And Jocelyn, who is the board chair for Hands and Voices right now, her daughter, anytime she sees anyone, child, adult, she goes, Mom, look, they have an ear like me. Can I run and talk to them? For our kids, it's so unique. And I think for all kids with disabilities, there's that aspect of that. But the communication, you know, she takes that off and she is deaf. No sound, nothing. And so seeing someone else who understands what that's like is pretty significant for our kids. That isolation that they can experience. Or for some of our kids, they say the quiet. You know, a teenager who takes it off and he's like, nope, can't hear you, Mom. Right, I see you. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. You know, we love to find out about any other groups that are around that we can send our parents to. Again, we're everywhere. We want our parents to be able to find other groups and get connected.
Any more questions?
Anybody else?
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So